Joan, get me a Snapple.
County, Arkansas, home to the Faulk monster. That's right. We're going to have a little bit of news, some learning stuff with the Rev, and later on, another Bigfoot campfire story. Right here, tonight's episode of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And I am indeed your host, the Reverend Jeff. That's right. Don't applaud. Just throw money. Don't throw change. It hurts. Okay, we are right here. 29 episodes already this season. That's right. 3 times Game of Thrones. Right here on the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. we are live. And an archive, well, it just goes on forever and ever. Amen. I'm here. You're there. Makes the whole thing awesome. And we're going to kick this thing off with a little bit of news tonight, followed by learning stuff with the Rev. Oh, yeah. I got to teach y'all some stuff tonight. It's not too bad, actually. There's a bunch of interesting stuff going on. So, hey, another clue emerges on the Lake Norman monster with a report of an enormous fish. Oh, my God, look at the lips on this thing. Well, a report this month, yet another person saw a dinosaur in the murky waters of the man-made Lake Norman has prompted someone else to step forward with a clue about what the creature might be in a July 14th posting of the official LakeNormanMonster.com website. A diver from Clemens claims to have seen this monster. Look at the size of the lips on that. If you're a fan of Strange Wilderness, you'll get the reference. Yahoo News, all the news that's news to come. Kind of in Yahoo News, something like that. WTYV, that's right. Holy cripe balls. Did you see the size of this pig? Samson, Alabama. Samson resident Wade Seago. I got to make sure I get your name right, dude, because you need some props. Knew something was up when outside of his home last week when the family's pet schnauzer, little bastards, Cruiser, started barking constantly. The Seagos live on 100 acres in the rural South Alabama town. The property and surrounding area is teeming with wildlife, and it's not unusual for their dog to bark at a deer, raccoons, or other visitors. But this was different. As he was about to get up and check on his dog, his daughter began screaming. He jumped to see what was going on. Wade explained, I looked out the back window and didn't say nothing, so I ran to the front of the house where my daughter was looking out the window. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The dog had a huge wild hog bayed in his front yard. Now, if y'all don't know what bayed means, it basically means this little bastard of a schnauzer was running back and forth and barking at this giant hog so aggressively that the hog just laid down. Like, he didn't know what to do. It was like, okay, dog, whatever you want me to do, please just don't hurt me. This little schnauzer is controlling this great big hog. No joke. So he had them bayed in the front yard, had them all confused. It was definitely not a good situation. So Seago, an avid deer hunter, and he runs a taxidermy business in Samson. He was also a prison guard for years. Said that hogs are abundant in this area, so he got out his .38 caliber revolver and he keeps it home for home defense and went out on the porch. By the time I got positioned to shoot, the hog was about 12 yards away. Cruiser was out of my line of sight, so I shot the fucker. It's not exactly his words, might be mine, but it took 3 shots to take it down. The giant hog hit the ground near the carport, weighed 820 pounds. Pigs are good. I like bacon. Bacon's good. Now, if you're watching the show and you're a vegetarian, let me tell you something. Bacon's good. It's real good. And this guy's going to have a lot of it. So check it out. It's all over Facebook right now. You can just search Google for it. It'll pop right up. Now, this one's weird. Residents in Stirlingshire, so we know they were somewhere in Great Britain, village react to a sighting of a mystery creature in the field. Those living in Killern have been discussing the odd sight, which was captured by a local man, Jimmy Wright, while out walking his dog. Look at this thing. I have no it's either a really cool pareidolia of a stump or log sticking up, or it's an actual creature, and I'm not sure which. I'd have to see the original. I'm just now looking at it and kind of honing. I see a log with a branch hanging out, but apparently people see a mystery creature popping up, giving the Loch Ness money a run for his money. No, not really, but apparently they snapped this shot while he was out with his son's dog on a Crow Hill, known locally as the Crow Field. So this one's out there. The more I look at it, the more I think it's a stump. Cliff Brackman shared this one on Facebook earlier in the week. I thought it was really, really cool. And this is where we're going to get to learning something with the Rev. All right, people, we're going to talk about a little bit about prehumans. I'm not the Latin guy, so if I get these wrong, yeah, bite me. Cliff posted up this awesome type specimen of the Paranthropus boise, a possible Sasquatch ancestor discovered in 1959. And I got to thinking to myself, really? A Sasquatch ancestor? Could it be? Now, I've always been of the case that we are the fourth chimpanzee, and Sasquatch most likely is the fifth chimpanzee. And you're going to find out that a lot of the Sasquatch creatures across the world are 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th chimpanzees, because those are the last of the line to develop. But basically, Paranthropus, well, I was like, well, what the hell does Paranthropus actually, what's the definition of it? Well, right behind this particular posting, he comes up with all the hominin type specimens in one post, which is really cool, on nutcrackerman.com. It's from 2015. It basically shows you the oldest specimens that we have all the way up to modern human. Keeping in mind that all of this older stuff, we don't really know where it is. We just know that it came after the chimpanzees, until you get to what's called, here's the Australopithecus afarensis. We know that one. Australopithecus africanus. We know that one. Paranthropus aethiopithecus. And I'm like, well, what the hell does Paranthropus mean? So, of course, Wikipedia tells us it basically means sort of human. A genus of extinct hominins, the robust, that was kind of known as beside humans. So these are all of our really close cousins, like chimpanzees, that were walking on two legs. And that's always been the case that I've made for Bigfoot, is to be one of those, not one of us, not one of the chimps, but one of those gazillions of things that have to exist between us and chimpanzees. So we roll a little further up the line here, like, Homo rudolfensis. Look at that sucker. That's the first of the Homo line that we see in all of this. Homo's where we come from. Homo sapien. At the end, we see a couple of more. There's a Paranthropus, there's a Australopithecus, and I'm like, well, what the hell is an Australopithecus? So we go back to Wikipedia for a moment, and we take a good quick look at what's going on with this, and basically it means southern ape. So they're not people either. They're hominins because they're walking on two legs and they have the changes in the hips, but they're still not us. So again, because these guys are littler, probably not Sasquatch, but very well could be some of the Sasquatch types creatures that we've researched here on the show in seasons that go back of Sasquatch around the world, where they talk about the monkey things in India that run on two legs, and the monkey things that run in South America on two legs. And this would give them plenty of space for them to exist without them being us. There were lots of things that walked on two legs, and they all walked on two legs together. They just didn't make it as long as Homo sapiens did. So we get to scrolling along, and there's Homo habilis. Well, we know that name, Paranthropus robustus. And again, back into those big skulled, big bodied, upright walking creatures. You know, coming out of those guys went south into South Africa. Homo agaster, you know, that guy was found in Kenya. Homo erectus. Now, we know Homo erectus is mostly found Java, Indonesia. You know, there's lots of other places, but we do know that erectus genes still exist in Homo sapiens today. Homo antecessor. And the only thing we got of that is a little piece of a jawbone. It's like, well, where were there, like 8 of those guys once upon a time? Homo heidelbergensis. Now, this is we're getting a little bit, that used to be the case that people would, well, if, Bigfoot's going to be anything, it's going to be a homo heidelbergensis because he was gigantic. He was just huge. Yeah, he wasn't all that big. He was big for humans, but he wasn't all that big. Then the Homo neanderthalis, look at that guy. We know that guy. Big old brow ridge on him, almost human, pretty smart, probably talked, grunted, and understood, a lot like Gaelic. Homo floresiensis. Those are the little people on the island that we still don't quite figure out where they got in there, but there were little elephants and stuff on that island too, so they could have been there a long, long time. And then, of course, but us, the Homo sapiens. Now, these are only of the found line that we have, but there's most likely an infinite amount of minuscule changes in specimens that we could find in the future, especially now that this new type DNA is coming out, to where they can just, they can scrape a cave and go, okay, well, we know the Homo line lived in caves. That's why nothing else did. So let's scrape all these caves and see what we can come up with. And now they can go into these areas and kind of see how the DNA is going to be able to change. They're basically almost going to be able to map genetic changes from one type specimen to the next. And that's going to be really neat to see how that all comes out, if I'm even still around for that. But welcome along for the first episode of Learning Stuff with the Rev. That's right. Where'd we come from? I don't know, somewhere after the chimpanzee line, but boy, there was a whole bunch of stuff between us and them. Why couldn't Sasquatch still be one of them? Dun, da, da, da. And of course, he can be. And with that, we're actually going to do a quasi rewind this week because old Dean's got shit to do, We understand that, Dean, and it's quite all right. He recommended one, so I put it together for you, and we are going to do that right now. Welcome, everybody. I'm delaying because I didn't get the picture up again as usual. I know you'd think after like 5 years of doing this, I'd figure this stuff out quicker enough, but not so much. It's been one of those weeks. Here you go. We're kicking it with divining divination from your quasi-theorist, Mr. Dean Cooper. And now, quasi-theories from a quasi-scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Divining divination. This quasi was originally going to be on applied phrenology, an invention of mine that used the old method of determining personality traits by feeling the bumps and dips on the outside of the cranium. After feeling up a client's noggin, the phrenologist would then consult a chart of a generalized skull with the areas of various personality traits drawn on the skull to do a character analysis of the client. A bump here meant one thing, a divot there another. This lump says you have criminal tendencies. That flat spot says you love children, maybe a little too much. Applied phrenology would use a mallet, ball peen hammer, and maybe a flat iron to correct evil tendencies and enhance good quality by enlarging or flattening the appropriate place on the skull. I decided not to do a quasi on that. Please feel free to use my invention however you see fit. No, when I started looking up phrenology, I got other references to other forms of divination and got distracted. I blame Google. Just Wikipedia, I found a list with over 100 kinds, and that was just under the one starting with A, B, and C. Let's list a few in no particular order. We all know about horrification. I mean, who hasn't tried to figure out what's going to happen next by examining the guts of some animal you have sacrificed for that purpose, especially sheep and poultry? I did that both in high school and college, looking for how to pass the biology class. The liver was the favorite organ for many, and that aspect of horrification is called hepatoscopy, which means looking at a liver. But trichomancy is divination by watching frogs. Armomancy is divination by having one's shoulders examined. Labiomancy uses the lips on the mouth. Get your minds out of the gutter. Then there's the always popular necromancy. How about abacomancy, reading dust? Gematria is one of my favorites. The modern form is numerology. Gematria assigns a numeric value to each letter of a given alphabet. You then add, subtract, divide, multiply, hell, maybe take the square root of the numbers you come up with when you translate the letters of your name or whatever into the numeric equivalent. I'm just going to list some more with no explanation. Getomancy, katabomancy, platonomancy, drumomancy, micromancy, molybdomancy, scatheromancy. This is driving my spell corrector nuts. I'll end with a completely idiotic one, a modern one, only possible since the invention of digital playlists, shufflemancy. Yes, there are those among us who believe you can predict the future based on putting your favorite playlist on shuffle and examining what the shuffle comes up with. I am sure that a good horrification would be more accurate, if you've got the guts to do it. This has been Dean Cooper, quasi-scientist, enlightening you with my quasi-theory of the week. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
That's right. So many Mancies, and maybe you like kids a little bit too much. Wise words from the great Dean Cooper. Speaking of great things, we're going to have us a Camp and Tips for Stupid Rewinds right here coming up next. That's right. This one I actually have loaded this week. Imagine that. Just the slightest bit of professionalism.
Camping Tips for Stupids. Tip number 24. The night is the opposite of day, and that means no more natural sunlight to see the surrounding environment with. Nighttime in the woods is a whole nother world, a scary world, full of monsters and fat, naked, drunk hicks who drank all the beer or thought it would be funny to put the keg in the campfire. Yeah, watch out for those bastards. Now, unless you got superhuman night vision, most of the time, especially away from the city, darkness levels out in the sticks is a whole lot more darker than in or near a city where the ambient light can actually illuminate the environment. Campfires, LED lights, and propane lanterns are your main sources for makeshift light to light up that upside down to daytime in the great outdoors. Just remember not to stare right at the light source. It'll ruin your night vision. And also a pro tip, red light, flashlights, and lamps save your night vision, allowing you to still see everything but won't flash blind you either. And if all else fails, just become a damn werewolf and get chased by those boys on mountain monsters. Just don't eat buck. You'll clog your arteries. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Oh, that is fantastic, Kevin, my man. I love you.
Camp.
That's right. Just don't eat buck. He will clog your arteries. That's right. Well, we are at that point where we come out here to the room and we see who's hanging out in the live chat room tonight, so we can say hi to all you people. Star Shine, she's out there swinging her tool around. That's right. You be careful out there. She'll put you in order. Dean Cooper, our quasi-theorist. That's right. Oreo Cream rocks. She's rocking the house. That's the way it happens. Joshua Turner is in the house tonight as well. How you doing there, sir? Edmund F. Kuhl, the third spiritual nutrition master. Spiritual nutrition. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but welcome to the show, sir. Mr. Fang with a bunch of threes. How you doing, pal? Glad to see you out there. Hey, man, I do read your comments. Please, everybody, if you're watching the show, you leave me a comment. As of next week, I'm actually going to do a top 5 comments of the week. So, that's right. Get out your comment guns and leave them below, because that's how it's going to rock. Sam Squanch Rivera, how you doing there, pal? Wyadola. That's right. And there's Miss Natalie Smith. I saw she's got a heavenly bed to sleep in somewhere in Knoxville. Be careful out there. Get yourself in trouble. I heard if you go to Jackson, you can, never mind, you can fool around. Hey, Jason Gerd, that dude's in town. See here, who's floating? There's more people up here. I know there was. Yeah, I'm stalling for a moment. What was that? I don't know, but I'm glad you're here. Definitely wasn't a fart. I just don't want to do that. Let's see. I know there was more people earlier up here. I don't want to miss them. Steno Ronnie, how you doing there, pal? Jeremy Harrison. That's right. I'm getting to the end of these things, people. So if you haven't said hi, you better click in and say so. Rod Dupree, how you doing there, champ? Glad you are with us tonight as well. He's always there in the place to be. I don't know if I said Jeremy Harrison. If I didn't, I did now. Keith Harden, how you doing there? Jonathan Dowdy, glad you are with us as well. All right, let's see here. Justin McNeil in the house. That's right. Just refresh your page in case your guys are out there being locked up for some weird reason. Lance Windsor is in the house. How you doing there, pal? Let's see here. And we are there, people. We are there. So if you haven't said hi, I don't know you're here. And if you haven't said hi before Wednesday night, when I get to this point, then I won't know you're here till next week. So say hi to me in the chat box, and I'll say hi to you back. And we'll see. Mr. Matthew Gaines. I don't know if I said your name or not, but I sure have now. There's a Brian Hunter. Yo, from Sasquatch Country in Oregon. I'm glad you are there. No, I did not get an invitation to Todd Neeson's Beachfoot, and that did not break my heart. I promise you, it did not. I need to give a special shout out as well. Contacted me earlier on Facebook. Real heck of an artist himself. Good grief. Let's see here. Sorry, people. I wanted to get the guy's name out of this. And his name is Devin King. There it is. Shared a bunch of art with me earlier, and it was absolutely awesome. So I am glad to meet you as well, sir. That's right. The Squatchers Lounge podcast. We care about our listeners because, well, this is what we do it for. We do it for y'all, not for me. That's absolutely for sure. All right. Now we're off and running like a turd of hurdles to Miller County, Arkansas. Well, you say, hey, Reverend, just where the hell is Miller County, Arkansas? Well, we're going to find out right about now. It's on the Texas border, right there where, where we are east of Dallas, Fort Worth by a long mile. That's a lot of miles, by the way, people. That's a lot of miles to Dallas, Fort Worth. But yeah, it's on the Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas border. That's why they call it Texarkana. But that, my friends, is home to, that's right, you guessed it, it's home of the Faulk monster. Yeah, I always spell that wrong and put an L in it because, damn it, that's the way it should be spelled. But it's not. All right, let's see what we can get back from old-timey days. A news report from 1981, the Faulk monster is still alive and well. Arkansas, you should know that the Faulk monster is still at large. This famed creature has been the subject of countless stories, studies, and even a motion picture, The Legend of Boggy Creek, if you didn't know. But somehow the monster continues to elude capture. Named for the tiny southwest Arkansas community. Is it really southwest? I don't know. The Faulk monster is usually sighted at night. It has been described as a large and hairy with fiery red eyes. People who have caught glimpses of the thing say that it looks like a giant monkey with long swinging arms and a swift galloping gait. The monster is said to weigh some 250 to 300 pounds. That doesn't sound much to me. Heck, I think I weigh 250 to 300 pounds and stand 6 to 7 feet tall. I guess I'm a monster. Searchers don't have to be told they'll need more than a flimsy net to catch this monster. The Faulk monster seems to be like animals because numerous pigs, cattle, and occasional human or two have reportedly been accosted by the huge beast. In 1971, Bobby Ford of Faulk was treated at a Texarkana hospital for several scratches and symptoms of shock after he reported being attacked by a large, hairy creature at his home. Later that same year, Texarkana couple reported seeing the monster as it ran across the highway in front of their automobile. And in 1977, a Miller County farmer checked on his pig pen and discovered the remnants of a small-scale attack. That's right. Several pigs had been ripped open, and one carcass was found outside away from the pen, where it was apparently had been dragged and abandoned. So if you're ready to start collecting unusual species in the state of Arkansas, head on down to Faulk. It might be the place to begin, but be careful. The Faulk monster might have other ideas about that. Well-written article. That was Lou Farish of the Arkansas Democrat. We don't have reporters like that anymore. Everybody started to cry until she did this one thing with her eye. Sorry, folks. All right, December 1st, 1998. The Faulk Monster by Rodney Bowers. Faulk, Arkansas. The Faulk Monster, a legendary Bigfoot-like, still stalks the lower of Miller County. According to local residents, there were 40-some sightings last year alone, said Richie Roberts, Faulk's unofficial monster spokesman. That's right. There were 22 sightings in one day. There's even one guy who swears there's a family of monsters who live behind his house. Robert only owns the Monster Mart grocery on US 71. Said the latest sighting came July 17th when 4 people purportedly saw the creature walking along a dry creek bed about 5 miles south of town. Sightings of the Faulk monster have been reported since the 1940s. According to the newspaper articles, in all that time, no one has ever photographed the creature. Dun, dun, dun. All right, K's. Let's see here. 2001, Faulk monster. A look at how the media recorded the reports of the 1971 alleged sighting of a large creature in rural Miller County, Arkansas. Hey, by staff writer. What a jackass. Sorry, Texarkana goes in. Hey, staff writer. You got anything good? Let's talk about the Faulk monster. Okay. It was not a monster story by any measure. It didn't even make page 1 of the local story. Yet 30 years later, the tale spawned from the first bit of basic news reporting is still alive and growing. From its humble beginnings, the Faulk monster developed a life of its own. That's right. Jim Powell, now the building manager at the Bi-State Justice Building, wrote the very first story when he was a reporter for the Texarkana Gazette in 1971. Yeah. That's just, wow, I can't believe that's horrible. Okay. Thanks, Texarkana Gazette. Again, in 2001, ex-journalists recall sifting facts from fiction during the Faulk sighting of the era. More often than not, a reporter's life is anything but glamorous. Instead of unraveling mysteries at some paperback novel hero, most days are spent picking out bits of horrors, news, meeting, traffic accidents, and fires. That's right. They pick through all that crap so they can bring you the stories and just rehash them for all of us. But we're back looking for news stories. I'm so sorry. We're almost there. Here we go. Up to official Bigfoot reports. I apologize for the news pieces that were just horrible, but that wasn't really my fault. Faulk, Arkansas, from the year 2009. That's right. Some really contemporary ones, to be honest with you. It's kind of nice to see that. Fall, though, 1996, in this particular one, Highway 71. Truck driver sees a tall, red-eyed creature south of Faulk near the Sulphur River. The Sulphur River. Well, let's see. I would venture to say that we are probably close to the city of Faulk there, and the river is probably right there as well. Yep. So there we go. We're looking directly at what the area is talking about. Sorry, I had to refocus for a moment. At the time I saw this, I was driving an 18-wheeler on Highway 71, just like our friends Gary and Whitney White. I always forget them. They're working really hard driving that truck, and I forget their shout-outs. But there you go, Gary. That's right. They're driving an 18-wheeler on Highway 71, south of Faulk, Arkansas, near the crossing of the Sulphur River, going north. At around 1 a.m., the headlights of my rig picked up what I thought was a dead tree trunk about 6 feet or so tall off the right side of the road next to the water. I saw eyes shining in the headlights and thought it must be an owl or something in the tree. But as I got closer, the tree walked off into the swamp. I never saw anything so weird as I went by that place. It had been something screamed loud enough I could hear it over the sound of the truck with the windows closed, and I sure wasn't going back to see what it was. No, I would not be going back to see what it was either. The year 2000, again, near the closest town of Faulk, wintertime, January. I observed a hairy, man-like creature, approximately 8 foot tall, walking away from me. It had sticks and leaves matted in its thick, reddish brown hair. The wind was blowing my way, and I smelt a very distinct, musty smell. I was very frightened when it stopped and looked in my direction. I had a gun, but I would never shoot anything unless it's game. I now carry a video camera, but I have not had an opportunity to observe it again. I observed the creature one other time in 1985, and it's still hard for me to believe what I saw. Okay, here we go again. 2001, just the very next year, again near the town of Faulk, again on 3 county roads west of Highway 71. I was driving around the back roads of Faulk and the Jonesville area. It was a Saturday late evening just before dark. I was looking over all the damaged trees that were still down from the ice storm we had had in this area during Christmas. As I came near Boggy Creek, it was getting somewhat dark, so I decided to turn around and head back home. I pulled into a dirt drive in front of a hunting lease to turn around, and suddenly I heard a howling like I'd never heard before. It was then dark to where I could not see through the trees anymore, so I decided to get home. Later on, I was able to listen to some sound recordings of Bigfoot, and just as I thought, I got a rare chance to hear the real thing. That was very strange. He said the one thing that he did notice is it actually seemed to wait until he stopped the car to turn around, and then it began howling as if it wanted to be sure that it was a warning, or maybe it was telling the others that you stopped and turned back around. I don't know. It's very difficult to say. All right. And finally, the last official Bigfoot report of the night. 2012, summertime, September. Miller County, again near the nearest town of Faulk, on Miller County Road number 10. Pre-dawn sighting of a rural road near Faulk. A family member was driving west around 4 a.m. in the morning when the creature crossed the road in front of the car. She's not inclined to repeat the old story she had heard all of her life and has never thought it was real. Well, today has a whole new respect for those stories. She has said that she was driving on County Road 10 in Miller County, Arkansas, going west about a mile or so into Faulk, Arkansas, when it crossed the road right in front of her. Long arms, big, hairy, crazy-looking monkey thing. There you go, people. The Faulk monster, the big, crazy, monkey-looking thing. Red, scary eyes. I mean, that's always been the tale of the Faulk monster, is those big, scary red eyes. And that's going to do it for the official Bigfoot reports coming from the Faulk, Arkansas area. I've always wanted to kind of go down there and investigate that, but swamps suck. I can tell you that firsthand. That is a promise. The swamps of Florida suck. The swamps of Georgia suck. The swamps of anything just sucks. I can absolutely promise you that. But what doesn't suck is the fact that we're going to now have us a Bigfoot campfire story to wrap this all up for the evening. So I want to thank every single one of you guys for being here live tonight and watching us live, and each and every week you support me. I very much appreciate that. Come back and we'll be here again next week with a whole new show of official Bigfoot reports and Bigfoot campfire stories. So I'm Reverend Jeff, and I say thanks for being here, and may the Squatch be with you. 2 cowboys see Bigfoot in Bluff Creek. Say what? Yeah, that's right. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. These stories are based upon true events. Welcome to another Bigfoot campfire story. As you may know, from time to time I dig out a classic that just begs for its own telling. And well, this one is way past due. Roger and Bob set out from Yakima, Washington on a week-long quest to investigate Bigfoot tracks and sightings around Bluff Creek, California. This is their story. Well, I'd gotten a call from the guys down in California. The Bigfoot have been moving through the area of Bluff Creek for a few years now, and I've been determined to capture one on film. I've been hunting these things for a long time now. I even wrote a book about it, and of the telling of the stories and tales from British Columbia and Washington State. We never really thought a place like Bluff Creek would even hold the critters until 1958. A fellow by the name of Gerald Crew found a Bigfoot track and cast it near a bridge. In fact, that's where the name Bigfoot actually comes from, during the logging construction of a bridge in that same area. Since then, the tracks and sightings have flooded in from the area. I decided it was time to get this creature on film once and for all. So I started making arrangements to look into that matter once again. I called my good friend Bob up and asked if I could borrow him and some horses for a week search in the Bluff Creek, California. Well, Bob wasn't too keen on the idea at first, but after some convincing, he at least agreed to come along and bring us horses so we could get around. Well, I'd recently received another call telling me that they had found 3 different sets of tracks near the same area, and it was there that we were set off to investigate. I brought with me a rented filming camera just like they use for TV and 2 100-foot rolls of film. We had finally gotten down into the area and we camped at a place called Happy Camp. We searched the area, seeing if we could find any tracks. Sadly, by the time we arrived, the rain had all but wiped out the tracks. So we spent a couple of days on horseback searching the area and decided on the 3rd day to move camp a bit closer to Bluff Creek itself. The logging roads had the area quite easy to get around, sort of. There were large tracts of road from one area to another, but after that, it got pretty wild again. We located a camp near Louse Camp, and we had to stage it up because Louse was full of logging crews at the time, but we were off the main logging road going in. By the time we had camp all set up, it was late in the day, so Bob and I took a short ride around the area, then went back to camp to make dinner and sleep off. Cool chill of the rain. Being October, the night chill got into the 40s, so we kept the fire burning all night. Next morning, I woke to an empty camp. Bob had already set off for a ride, and it was nearly 10 a.m. when Bob returned, and I asked him which area he'd covered for his morning ride. Well, I decided that we'd like to recheck that area that we had saw the evening before, so I grabbed the camera and checked the film. The area was so beautiful, I had already burned through 76 feet of film, just taking film of the surrounding area shots in the forest of Bob and I. Hopefully it'll make the movie someday. Well, I loaded up the saddlebags and I mounted my horse and off we went to explore the watershed. We had come down off of the ridge where the old road had been, and we hit a log jam. That's when the horses began to act all weird. This was definitely abnormal. That was when we first caught the glimpse of the creature. It was crouched down by that log jam, and it rose up. When it did, my horse kicked and rose up on its front legs and threw me back off the ground. I quickly got up and grabbed my film camera and began to run after the creature. There it was in the viewfinder. It was all covered in hair about 60 yards from me, quickly getting away, so I had to get closer. Well, I ran across the shallow creek and I up a little bit of a area and I braced myself up against a tree, got the creature back into the viewfinder. I'm no photographer and I had no idea if this thing was in focus, but it was running and definitely filming. Well, just as I got it really in focus, Bob crossed the creek on horseback, and that's when the creature looked right back at the camera. It's so hard to see through the viewfinder. I can't really see the creature itself without it. Well, Bob was much closer, and the creature turned and quickly started to walk upstream. And that's when the film ran completely out. Click, click, click went the film roll in the device. Well, Bob started off to follow the creature upstream, but there I was with no horse, no rifle. So I yelled for him to come back and wait till I could get my horse back at least. Finally, I got the horses straight. The film roll changed. By then, the creature was long gone. Bob and I had taken the footage of the tracks the creature had left. The sandbar was a result of the flood in 1964 and had made the perfect substructure to hold the tracks of this amazing beast. Was it some sort of people? Some kind of pre-human? Was it a monkey man? I have no idea, but we have to document everything. People won't believe us at all. Well, Bob and I spent the better part of another week meeting people in the area to show them what happened. We called my friend Al, and he got in touch with a man by the name of John Green, who brought a friend named Renee and another fella named Jim to help out. Well, this crew was great, and we cast some tracks. We searched the area for days, and a fella by the name of Bob T., he had come by with more casting stuff and searched the area very thoroughly. So much so he even found where the creature had walked up an impossible hill and sat down to watch what we were doing at the site after she had gotten away from us. Well, finally, after no more sightings or activity, we gathered up all the evidence that we had. We had to head back to Washington. I had sent the film out for developing, and they called me down to view it for the first time. There, for the very first time, I got a good look at the creature I filmed in Bluff Creek that day. I didn't get the creature at the log pile like I expected, but I did manage to get several good seconds of it as it walked the sandbar and looked back at the camera. It was nearly perfect. No doubt about it, this had to be a Bigfoot. This was no person at all. I had to make me 2 copies of it right away, as I knew this would change the world's look at mankind. It took several days, but finally I had the film in hand. I put a presentation together the best I knew how, and I showed it to the scientific world of my findings. Most of them wouldn't even look, and those that did just laughed and called it a hoax. As if I had some time to play games and make stuff up. This was the discovery of a lifetime, and no one believes it's real. Finally, we took our tour on the road. Bob was not really into the roadshow game, so he stayed behind, but I tried city after city and state after state. And although many people talked about it, and it even getting on the news, without some blood or some body part, there was no way to prove what we filmed. Finally, with my health declining, I brought everything back home once again. Our friend Renee had taken the film overseas and shown it to the British and Russian scientists, but only the Russians would even consider the idea of such a creature. And with the fanfare went away, well, to this day, people still talk about the Bigfoot of Bluff Creek. Sadly, Roger died not too long after that part of the story ended. His wife, Patricia, holds the rights to the film, and for the right amount of money, she'll let you put it in your Bigfoot video too. We still argue if Patty, the Bigfoot film that day, is a real or it's a hoax, and no one can still put either way, even with all of the technology updates in place. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.